Yo, 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 what's poppin'? What's good, what's good, what's good? You are now watching J.U.K Sports Show. I am your host, King Ralph, and I am here with the homie, my brother from another mother. Wish I had no other. My guy, Cotty Immaculate. What's happening, Brody? Your mic's muted again, G. You muted again?
All right.
Now you're good. We can hear you.
All right, there we
Hey.
go. Yeah, I'm like, I pressed the button. It's like loading. Come on, come on. I'm doing great. What's up, everyone? Welcome, world. Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are all doing good. I'm doing good, man, and I'm ready for a great show today.
Yeah. I'm ready for a great show as well. And before we get going, man, got to send a shout out to the good old sponsor, bro. Hold up. Sorry for the shaky screen. But if you want to do any podcasts like what you're watching, music videos, photo shoots, call the number on the bottom of the screen 707 Fit Boxer. It's my announcer voice.
I like it. I like
But
it.
Tommy Fury
Yeah.
comes up with a shocker. Jake
Mm.
Paul and Tommy Fury fight, long awaited. They've been talking trash back and forth for at least a year or two now, but they finally meet face to face. Tommy Fury comes up the victor with a split decision. Is
Mhm.
this the end of an era?
It's an end of an era for Jake. No, no, man. Look. It was I'll say yeah. I do think it was. I do think it's an end of an era. When I look at that fight, Ralph, like it wasn't really competitive. I'm gonna keep it real, but I have to give Jake Paul some props. He did make Fury touch gloves at one point. When I mean touch gloves, I don't even necessarily mean the rules fight. I
Right.
mean actually on the mat at one point.
Yeah.
So I thought that was very impressive. The Paul brothers, they're athletes. That's one thing that people have to understand. Logan, Jake, they're athletes. But that was the first time, Ralph, where he fought a pro fighter who did this full time. And you're talking about the half brother of Tyson Fury, who actually had youth on his side at the age of 23, with Jake Paul being, I believe, 26 years old, right? So
Right.
now he had to go up against someone within his own, I guess you could say, age bracket, right? And had to go up against that type of guy, albeit a social media guy who just so happens to be also an athlete, whatever you want to call it. Um, but for him to be able to be in the ring, I believe it was last 8 rounds in there. I think he did. Yeah, and be able to box and spar with him. Yeah, it was cool and all, but old boy, Fury, he was too much for him. So I got to give him the edge in this, man. And he pretty much came through with the jabs. And Fury didn't really stand much of a chance. So you know, uh, but this is what
Yeah.
people like to see. So
Yeah. I think that there's a possibility because it wasn't a fight where he was just destroyed.
true. That yeah, he made him
So
kind
there's a
of
possibility for a rematch, which is at that point, there's always more money to be made. People is this was a big draw. That social media following, like we talked about off camera,
mhm.
is it's always going to be a deciding factor as far as the money. If the money is there, then it's always going to make sense. But
Right.
Tommy Fury was the busier fighter, doubled him in jab, power punches. I didn't actually get to watch the majority of the fight. I got to see like here and there a few rounds
Yep.
because I was at work. I thought the fight would be later in the day, so I was at work during half of the fight. So by the time I got home, I was able to watch like a couple rounds. But that doesn't really tell you much about the fight. But if the punch numbers are any indicator, Fury controlled the fight. He won a split decision, so he did enough to win. But I
Mhm.
think that the fact that didn't dominate the fight is where the the possibility for a rematch is going to come from.
I can see that.
It,
I can definitely
it's
see that.
And so I don't want to spend too much time on it, man. We got a lot to get to over here, but we got the 2-minute drill. AJ McCarron, former Bama quarterback, has been in the league 5-6 years. Decided to forego his NFL career, switch over to the XFL. He is the starting quarterback of an XFL team.
Mm-hmm.
He said himself that he gave up millions or gave up money, took less pay to create memories for his children. Now, to give you some backstory, his team is 2-0. If you look at just his career as a whole, he's played in 17 NFL games, started 4. He's the age of 32. So it's like you start to get to that point where as a backup, you're not going to be able to play for that much longer. So I made my money. Let's go create memories for my children. If you look at this last game, his team is down by a touchdown.
Mm-hmm.
They get the ball with 3 minutes at the 3-minute mark. He leads his team on a touchdown drive. Then with the XFL rules and the fact that they have the if you know anything, I don't know how much you guys know. If you don't know, there's 2 ways to get an onside kick. During the fourth quarter only, you have the possibility of going for a 4th and 15 on your own 22-yard line or 25-yard line. So they score a touchdown. They go for the onside kick. He completes a 22-yard pass. That drive, they eventually go on. Austin Proehl, son of Ricky Proehl, and if you know your football history, Ricky Proehl caught the touchdown for the Rams to beat the Buccaneers to take them to the Super Bowl where they beat the Titans.
I always get him confused with somebody on the Seattle Seahawks. I'm like, but he played for the Rams. Okay, got you.
So, Austin Proehl also was drafted by the Rams in the 5th round as well. But now he's a wide receiver on the same team that AJ McCarron is on. I'm having laptop issues, so I would look it up, but I'm not able to do it at the moment. But that memory alone, that comeback win, 3 minutes left, you score 2 touchdowns to win the game. I think that memory alone puts you in a position where the question is, do you agree with his decision to forgo his NFL career and play for the XFL, or do you disagree?
In this case, I'm going to agree. And it's more solely in the fact that I'm kind of thinking of it, not putting myself in his shoes. I'm kind of thinking of it in terms of how he just personally feels, right? Because he said he made it a family decision. So in this case, it was more of a personal decision than a business decision in a way. I think the business decision is always to go and get the money, right? However,
Right.
I mean, he even said, because I had the quote, he said, I probably could try to come back with the NFL team and had a chance to probably made bigger money, but no one knows what the future holds. I'm enjoying this, and it's a great way to create some memories for me and my boys. So I think that when we look at pro sports, Ralph, right? Not to spend too much time on it, but it's just the fact that this is something that people are doing in their day-to-day lives, right? So they're making some type of commitment or some type of full-time commitment away from their families. And so he's already kind of went through those kind of doldrums and ups and downs and et cetera, being a backup in the league. I think he was back up to the Cincinnati Bengals, if I'm not mistaken, at some point. Was it the Bengals or the Browns? So
It
I
was the
think that
Bengals.
now, okay, yeah, the Bengals, right, right.
His
And
last
so
team he was on was the Houston Texans. He actually was on the
Houston
Raiders as
Texans.
well in
Oh,
2018.
okay, got you. Good looking out. Good looking out. So I think just the fact that he feels enjoyment of this, and it gives his family and his sons more TV time to be able to see them or even go to be at the game, whatever, vice versa. I think that just from a family perspective, and if he's happy with taking that pay cut because he knew what it was, then then sure, I'm not against it. Plus, it's also a dual threat quarterback league. Even if he wasn't going to be a star in the NFL, I think that more and more teams are looking for even backup quarterbacks, Ralph, to be dual threat quarterback. So I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but I'm not opposed to it. I understand why he did it.
Right. I think that
You know.
like I said, that excitement
Mm-hmm.
when you've already played in the league for 6 years,
Mm.
that excitement that you get, that your children can get, like, oh, I saw my dad, man, complete a game winner where they were down by a touchdown. So he scored a touchdown to tie and a
Mm-hmm.
touchdown to win. or a touchdown that puts you down by 3 points, and then score a touchdown and to go ahead in that fashion in a new startup league where The Rock owns the league. It's those memories are your they're only going to do you. They're never going to take away. You can't take those memories away.
Mm-hmm.
And so next up, we got the NFL's Adam Wojnarowski, Adam Schefter himself, has reported Chicago Bears will be leading toward trading their number 1 overall draft pick, the number 1 pick in the NFL draft, and trying to move back to acquire more picks. Do you agree, and are you in favor?
With all due respect, I do agree. I don't think it's a bad option. I think Ralph simply put, when you have a chance to get more draft compensation and get as many hits in the draft, because that's some people's approach. I know that's as a Ravens fan, that's always RGM's approach, is to have as many hits and cracks at the draft, right? Because one pick, it can be a bust, right? I don't have a problem with that, and I believe that this year the number 1 pick is going to be valuable for some people, and I think it's because the team in itself has holes in other places. It's not just one hole, which I do know they need a receiver, right? But are you going to draft a receiver number 1? Probably not, but you could maybe draft receiver number 12, right? So I think if you could address some things, the defensive side of the ball, if you could address the receiver position in the draft, maybe look at a, a, a um, uh, Quentin Johnson, a Jackson Smith enigma. I know he has some health concerns, but you know what I'm saying. Players of that ilk, just get some pieces, and you're not trading your quarterback in Justin Fields, because that was something that was a rumor that me and you we talked about hearing, which is something I would not do unless you're getting a young quarterback back who you believe could be your future. I don't have a problem with them trading the number 1 pick because they're keeping their quarterback. Why don't you build around said quarterback in that division where Aaron Rodgers may be leaving? So that's how I kind of see it.
I agree with it, man, because like I said, if you know me, I should have posted a clip of me talking about this, because I've talked about this many a times. Trade your pick. Don't move too crazy far back, because there's 2 quarterbacks, then there's 2 defensive players that are in those top 4 picks, top 5 picks, depending on where you want to be at. So I say move down, move back, where you got people like you got Houston, Arizona, Indianapolis, Seattle. All 4 teams, to me, there's a few teams in there that have a quarterback. So Arizona's not going to take a quarterback. Seattle's not going to take a quarterback. I doubt Detroit takes a quarterback. So then you have Houston, Indianapolis, and Las Vegas, all teams that could possibly take a quarterback. Now, me as a Raider fan, I don't want us nowhere near any of these quarterbacks outside of C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young.
Right.
So you already have Justin Fields, ran for over 1,100 yards. They had the number 1 rushing offense. Passing offense, so-so. I think it has more to do with the offense that was being ran for him, as well as he needs to get better as a passer. Because although he ran for over 1,100 yards at Ohio State, he was a dual threat quarterback, but he threw a lot from the pocket. He wasn't running like this. So he showed you something else that he was able to do, something else in his game, because we looked at him as a passer of the football who was also athletic. Not to the point where he was Lamar Jackson or Cam Newton. And so he's more Cam Newton than he was Lamar Jackson. Cam Newton was not running for the 11,000 yards. 1,100 yards. And so I think that you put pieces around where the defense, I think you go defense, because their defense was also 31st in the league. And so I think that getting a Will Anderson, and we'll get into our mock draft later on in this, but getting a Will Anderson, a Tyree Wilson, a Jalen Carter, moving back in the draft and getting someone of that ilk, where you could even possibly get a Lucas Van Ness, who is someone that's climbing up people's draft. We'll see what happens with this, with the combine over the weekend. But I think that those are all people that can boost your defense while also moving back in the draft, acquiring more draft capital, and going along that route, rather than taking a Bryce Young, someone who's gonna get talked about a lot over this weekend as far as his height and size.
Okay.
We've seen all of the abilities, but you have a Justin Fields who's 6'3", 6'4", 220, 230, ran for over 1,100 yards, can take that punishment while also has to get better. And Jalen Hurts has laid the foundation of how to get better from year to year.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't see why Justin Fields, if he puts the work in, I don't see why he wouldn't be able to make that type of jump in 2-3
Right.
years.
And you look at I look at the quarterbacks in that division. Jared Goff, with all due respect, I think that he has weapons around him, right? Kirk Cousins, but we already know what Kirk Cousins is. We know what his ceiling is. And Rodgers, like we talked about, may or may not be on the move, but he'll be out. He'll be moving somewhere. Either he's moving into retirement 1 year, or he'll be moving to another team, right? So I
Right.
think with Justin Fields, I think Justin Fields has the highest ceiling and can potentially peak out higher than any other of the remaining quarterbacks that would be in that division, unless obviously, like you said, some drastic happens. So,
Yeah. And
build
we on
around
the
him.
move.
Yeah. All right.
Dame puts up a crazy stat line, 71 points, second player to do it this
Mm-hmm.
year, first player to do it over the age of 30, and he did it efficiently too.
Yeah.
We always talk about him. He's always a piece where we talk about the trade deadline. Should
Mm-hmm.
he stay? Should he go? And then when it comes to shooters in this era, we always go Steph. Is it time to start having the conversation and putting Dame in that same conversation? Is he being underrated?
I do believe that Dame is being underrated. The reason why I believe that Dame is being underrated is because if you were gonna name an NBA Hall of Famer, right? Damian Lillard would be on that ballot. He doesn't have to be MJ. He doesn't have to be Kobe. Now, I'm somebody who, and I know how you feel about Hall of Fame in sports. I do believe in the elite of the elite, but in the NBA Hall of Fame, they factor in a lot of different things. And he is a multi-time All Star. However, he's also the greatest player in Portland Trailblazers history. I would take him over Clyde Drexler. Now,
Right.
Clyde Drexler did go to an NBA Finals. However, look at the team that was around Clyde Drexler, right? I'm thinking about the era Dame Lillard plays in. I'm thinking about what he's been able to accomplish with less help. I want people to understand something. At some point, Ralph, LaMarcus Aldridge left, right? Which I always thought was weird when he left, right? I think it was like 2014 or something. He dipped out, and that
If
was
he
a dude.
stays, we having a different conversation as far as
Thank you,
the trajectory of all of CJ,
thank you,
uh, Dame,
everyone.
and LaMarcus.
And that was back in the days when, oh boy, shout out to Gerald Wallace used to be on the team. They had Gerald Wallace. They had a couple wings, yeah.
They have
Evan, I think
Batum, a young Batum,
Batum, a young Nicholas Batum pre-injury. So
Rudy
like,
Fernandez.
right. I remember the media left Dame for dead. He was this cool, nice young player, got some of the vets respect, but like they left him for dead. And I used to have these conversations, tying this all in. I used to tell people that he was better than Kyrie Irving back then. Back then, Kyrie Irving didn't have the media against him like they do now. But I was like,
Right.
he's better because I was like, they were putting up similar stats, but Dame's situation was different, and he was taking his team to the playoffs without an all-star big when
Way less.
everyone left him dead. He never missed the playoffs at that point. So I think he went like 6 straight seasons without missing the
I
playoffs.
think last year
Yeah, last year was his
was the first
year he
time in
did it.
his prime that he missed the playoffs.
Yeah, and to me in the West, that matters, Ralph. So before I swing it to you, I just look at the Western Conference Finals situation. He's never made excuses when he lost, even if maybe the Pelican situation. We understand that he always took accountability. Um, we've seen him get better as a three-point shooter. He could always hit the three, but his range has gotten deeper. His efficiency has gone up. He's proven he could play off the ball. He's been clutch in the regular season and clutch in the postseason. So I think for me, when I just look at different check boxes and him just wanting to get it out the mud and out the soil, I do believe that Damian Lillard is underrated. And I just really like Dame, man. So yeah, I definitely believe that he's underrated.
I agree,
Yeah.
man. I think he's definitely underrated. I think that, this is to take nothing away from Steph,
Mm-hmm.
but I think that
Situations matter.
situations matter, and I think that being when your team is winning, you get boosted to a certain status. Not to
Mm-hmm.
say that you don't deserve it. I think that
Right.
Steph, any conversation you hear, Steph is an amazing person,
Yeah.
father figure, role model, doesn't get in trouble, the most you ever hear about him is his wife and stuff that she gets into social media. So it's like whenever you
Respectfully,
start
yeah,
to
yeah.
talk about Steph, Steph is the consummate pro. But I think that Dame, because he hasn't had team success, and
Mm,
sometimes he has played in a position where we look at that, what was that, 2015, 2016,
yeah,
when there's no Steph, there's no KD at certain points, and him and CJ come out and lay a stinker, where they could have
yeah,
actually taken control of that series and even won that series. So I think that it is one of those things where he hasn't helped himself, but when you look at his circumstances throughout his career, he came into the league, he had help. Brandon Roy gets hurt and has
mm,
chronic knee issues. That's
mm,
how they get Dame. He still
yeah,
comes in and plays along with Brandon Roy. Brandon Roy has to retire because of injury. LaMarcus Aldridge leaves. They get CJ. They get CJ. LaMarcus Aldridge leaves. So now you have a big three where you could have actually done some work, but now he leaves for whatever reason. But you still continue to get your team to the playoffs. You make these runs where you lose to the Nuggets, who go on to the Western Conference Finals. And so I
right.
think that he showed that he could be the leader on the team. And when we start to talk about the Hall of Fame, when we start to have those types of conversations, what are we really looking at here? We're
Mm,
looking at, were you the star on the team? What type
right.
of success did you have? Big moments, classic moments, the wave,
Yep.
the shot at the end when they beat the Rockets,
Right, right, right.
the logo Lillard,
Yeah.
like All
Game
Star
time
game,
is a thing. Yeah.
Dame time. Like we
Yeah.
have those moments where, along with, it just sucks because he's not going to get the MVPs. He's not going to
Mm,
get as many scoring titles. But
right,
when you
right.
look at what he was able to do, was he an efficient scorer? What was his bag like? His offensive
Mm,
bag. Because at the end of the day, a lot of players from this era are not going to go down as defenders
true.
like players
True.
from the '80s were.
True.
It's
And he's a
just the,
gold medalist too in the Olympics.
it's just the truth of the matter. And
Yeah.
so to go on from Dan to segue, he had some comments to say about Russ,
Yeah. Yeah.
where he talked about Russ going from OKC to Houston, to go from Houston to the Wizards, to go from the Wizards to get traded to the Lakers, and now when you get to the Lakers, now we're looking at you are like a bum. A lot of people are looking at him like he's a bum, he's a scrub.
Mm,
Why is he even still in the league? Then he gets traded to Utah. Then we look at him as like he's on his way out, but he's an MVP. He plays. I feel like a lot of times when it came to the Lakers, just that fit was terrible.
right.
Regardless of how you want to look at it, you can say, well, oh, LeBron came off the ball a little bit more. Not enough
Mm,
for it to matter because their skill sets are too different. When there was
mm,
no LeBron and there was Russ and AD, they didn't ever really talk about it, but they played well together. But when there was LeBron added to that threesome, then now you have the floor is too congested. LeBron is
yeah.
not a spot up catch and shoot. No, neither is Russ.
Yeah.
But too often, Russ played his role the best at his abilities and his capabilities. So for me, I think he is being overly criticized, but I have to pass it to you because he's with your Clippers. Is he being overly criticized?
My Clippers, man. Oh, my soon to be first round exit Clippers, the way they playing. But we'll get into that in another show. Um, yeah. So as the what's that word? What's that word called? I forgot the name. I can't even think of it. But as the honorary Clipper fan, I'm not really a Clipper fan, guys, but this is the honorary Clipper fan at times because my favorite player plays there. Yeah, I do believe that Russ is getting a bad shake. So much so that I posted on the IG story last week, Ralph. On my IG story, I said that for on House D dot House of Hoops, everyone, that everyone talks about the negatives about Russ. Why don't we look at some of the positive things that he does bring to the table and the positive outlooks that he can contribute to this team? And I still see in the media people wanting to throw Russ under the bus, blame Russ for things that have nothing to do with anything that he did wrong. More so Ty Lue and more so Paul George. Shout out to him playing some lazy basketball and turning over the ball. But yeah, Russ did get a bad shake because when we look at the Lakers, and I think you laid it out perfectly, the fit mattered. The pieces on that roster were not conducive to success, not conducive for the LeBron system to begin with. then we had to look at LeBron and be like, look, dude, you brought Russ over because you thought that you could win with him and prove that you could win with him. So I just personally thought that it was selfish reasons, and we knew that you cannot optimize Russ nor LeBron when you have those two ball dominant guys, right, on the basketball court and no shooting, right? So we know Russ is inefficient from the free throw line and shooting wise, but he is a high motor guy, high energy guy, right? Which is something that every coach loves, right? You at least need that. Give me energy and effort, right?
Right.
Um, improves your transition offense, and you need to surround him with shooters. So like he didn't have that, and I find it funny how the moment that you get those, then you get rid of them. But anyway, either way, him and LeBron didn't work. Now he's on the team, Ralph, where he's surrounded by the most 3-point shooting that he ever be surrounded by. He has a Kawhi, he has a PG, he has a Batum, he has Marcus Morris Sr., who needs to shoot better, but he has him. He has Eric Gordon coming
Right.
off the bench. So so he has those different types of people, and he has teammates that actually care about his well being and believe in him. Now, whether or not the coach does, that's a whole nother conversation for itself, right? But Russ has been getting a bad shake, and people need to look at the games for what they are and not look for a scapegoat. And I feel like everywhere he's been the scapegoat, right? You can talk about maybe some things that you wish he could improve on, but one thing he is in the regular season, he is a floor raiser in the regular season, right? Is he going to be the number one option on a championship team? No, but he could maybe be a number three option.
Right.
Why not? And how many people are number one options on championship teams? Like, if you honestly ask an NBA fan, how many people could they really name? So I think that people hold him to a standard, knowing what he is and what he isn't, but they choose to hold him to this high, I don't know, MJ level type standard. And I'm like, that's not Russ. I think the only I'll end it with this. I think the only thing um Russ ever did in terms of just maybe that might have been wrong was when he went to LA and he talked about, the whole championship and legacy and defining all that. I understand maybe how he felt and maybe he was on the defensive. You just can't say that for that franchise. That's it. You just can't. You can't go to Boston and say it for that franchise. Some things you just kind of have to maybe keep to yourself, right? Even if you feel that way. But I think that wrong place, wrong time, wrong roster, and wrong teammate. Yeah.
And so JJ Redick, Stephen A calls him Eminem, has been he's wanted all the smoke with these old
Yeah.
heads talking about the game was so much physical, certain players wouldn't be able to play in this era. Dominique Wilkins comes back, says some things. Really, it started over his comments. JJ Redick said that Larry Bird is not a top
Mm.
five shooter of all time. Dominique Wilkins comes back, someone that played in that era, fires back.
Hmm.
JJ Redick comes back, doubles down. Michael Cooper gets in.
Yeah.
Whose side are you on, man?
I don't even like picking sides with these types of things, but I'm actually going with the OGs. I'm going with the OGs. I was actually talking to one of my homies before the show about this too. Shout out to them. My issue with JJ Redick, I think, is we can even date this back, if we're being honest, Ralph, to the Bob Cousy comments, right? So now I see a recurring theme. I think JJ Redick is a knowledgeable basketball player. I like his podcast. I think he has some good takes. I think he's a good contrast to Stephen A. Smith, holding certain people accountable. And I understand that he is pro player. However, at the same time, I recognize JJ Redick is someone who, if you call someone soft or you call someone physical, he takes it as an attack to him, like you're talking about his entire era, in which he was included in. And so for that, he's going to fire back. So I think that now what it's done, Ralph, is create this division spearheaded by JJ Redick, and now he's got the attention that he wanted. Just this is my perspective. He's got the attention that he wanted, and now you have this like division or this divide between the old generation and the newer generation, or even JJ's generation, right? Even Draymond Green sometimes falls into that trap. Who I actually think that he has a great podcast. I saw his episode where he had Kenny the Jet Smith on, really, really good. If you guys have never seen that one, so I think that there needs to be a respect level. I think for me, Ralph, is that everyone needs to look at basketball through a certain lens in terms of relative to their era, right? Relative to the era. You can be great in multiple eras. I think greatness transcends eras, but we can't not certain people because they played before us. Yes, athletes are bigger. Yes, athletes are faster, maybe stronger, but you have to learn from some place, right? Physicality. Your boy MJ, you tell me this all the time. Your favorite version of MJ is the 80s, right? This is before he was a mid-range maestro. You can't tell me that they weren't more physical, but why were they more physical, right? Because with all due respect, could they guard MJ? No.
No.
I've literally I've looked for tape. I haven't seen a video tape of MJ ever getting strapped.
Nah.
This is before this is, right. I'm like, it doesn't exist. There's no like 50 Cent. You have no history. Like
Right.
like what I'm saying, it don't exist, man. So what did the bad boy Pistons do? They beat up on MJ. Now, whether or not we can have the debate on whether or not that was defense or not, hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm usually opposed to that. That's not defense to me. But they did it because they realized they couldn't stop him. So I'm kind of not mad at it. But that actually goes to Dominique Wilkins' point about the physicality. Now, JJ Redick, he did fire back and talked about, I was talking about coming off the screens and the physicality. Look, man, the fact of the matter is you could hand check and move a shooter, move a shooting guard anywhere. You could literally take this hand, right? Put it on their hip in position. You could put a forearm, a bow in their chest. You could do a lot of things. Shoot, they were clotheslining people in the 80s, right? We saw
Right.
what the OKC Thunder did to Steph. This is not knocking Steph. We saw what the OKC Thunder did to Steph to get that 3-1 lead. Or have we forgotten? They got physical with Steph,
Right.
right? At times. But that was the commonality in the 80s. So I think that you can't say that, oh, there was no physicality or everyone was just plumbers and blah, blah, blah. No, I think the 80s was probably the one era where people were physical. That's just me. That's just me. Whether or not you want to say they were better, that's a whole nother conversation. But it did birth the GOAT. So
And this is my thing, and I think it's one of those, and I think a lot of the times where with Jay, I'm a big fan of JJ's podcast.
yeah, really good podcast.
Was it the Three Old Guys?
Yeah, 3 men and whatever, something like that, or 3 old guys and something.
Three Old Guys, and it's some. I'm sorry if I'm butchering it, but it's no disrespect,
Yeah,
no shade. I'm actually a real big fan. I watch his podcast to get ready for our podcast.
yeah.
Draymond, Undisputed, Uncle
I like the
Shay.
Draymond one. That one's good too.
Those are a couple of other sports podcasts. I Am Athlete, The Pivots. I'm a huge fan of those. So those are the ones where I watch where I get ready for these podcasts. But I think watching JJ and seeing him debate, he's real big about analytics, the stat sheet, and what the stat sheet says is what he goes off of. So
Mm-hmm.
if we look at Larry Bird, although we watch tape of Larry Bird shooting and know that Larry Bird, while he played, was the best shooter of his era.
Mm.
And it wasn't close. But if we take Larry Bird's 3-point numbers, put them next to other people's numbers, it's going to say that Larry Bird was not a good shooter or he was a good shooter for his era. But really, I think if Luka can play this way in the era that we have now, Larry Bird would have better numbers given that you can't touch people in the era that we play now. Now, I take this and I use this translation. I'm not going to spend too much time because we got to get to this mock draft, and we're looking at about 25 minutes on the mock draft. But I'm going to say this last little point. There's a reason why, to take it to the NFL, when you have to run across the middle and you know you're finna get laid out when you run across that middle, you alligator arm stuff where you don't extend the way that a person would in this era. Now, to take Steph and put him in the era, if you take him going through the lane in the 80s, where you're getting clothesline when you come through there, whether or not that's defense or not, you're gonna second guess whether or not you're gonna go down that lane again. Now, this is where I say I agree with JJ. The greats from any era are gonna be great.
Yeah.
No matter what. But I am going to say that I do think that there's enough players where it would matter, where the old head's statement of players from today couldn't play back then, there's going to be a good amount of people that are going to fit. Some of those people are going to be superstars. Because I was talking to one of my homegirls earlier today, as much as we love Dirk and Pau Gasol, they were known as soft.
That's true.
Now,
Facts.
if now as great as they were, if they were known
Yeah.
as soft in the 2000s, what do you think they would have been known as in the 80s? Now, not
Oh
to say
man.
that they couldn't get past it
Right, right.
and
But
whatnot,
just the
but it
perception
would
of them.
have been a factor.
Yeah, the perception of them. Yeah.
And there's no shade toward these players. They're Pau Gasol is someone I think should get in the Hall of Fame. I've had this argument with him about him plenty of times and his greatness and what he was able to do when it comes to that Lakers team. And they always post that picture and
Mhm.
be like, "Oh, Kobe took these guys to the finals,"
Right.
but it's like, yo, Pau Gasol was that
Yeah.
guy. That's the reason why they traded for him.
It wasn't DJ Benga.
Right, right. And so I'm like, let's. It's I could keep going on and on about this, but we got to get to this mock draft, man. And so we got the Juke Boys,
NFL.
the Joint Universal Creative Boys
Yes.
mock draft 1.0.
All right. All right. All right.
We talked about it earlier. The Bears are going to be trading the pick, but
Mhm.
for the sake of time and giving you guys the best product that we can give you, we are going to wait until our final mock draft to talk about trades and whatnot. So we'll be posting our mock draft today.
Mhm.
In April 27th, we'll give you a mock draft around that
The
time
official
period, whatever that
final.
Tuesday is around that time. And then no, March 27th. And then in
Yeah. Yeah.
April 27th or 28th, whatever that Tuesday is before the draft, we will give you the draft with trades and all of that. So there'll be 3 versions of the mock draft.
Mm.
And you see the ticker at the bottom. So you want me to go first or you want to go first?
Hey, you're from the Shy, so you can go first.
I'm gonna go with my man's, bro. Like, I'm a huge fan. I really do hate Bama to a certain degree. I just
Oh.
Bama fans, Cowboys fans, Lakers fans, they just get on my nerves. And
Hey, them Laker
so
fans wilding.
I it's one of them things that I definitely wanna it hurts me to say this to a certain degree. But
Mm.
I'm gonna go Will Anderson Jr., edge rusher out of Bama.
Okay. So you going Will Anderson?
Yeah, Will
All
Anderson
right.
Jr. out of Bama, going to Chicago.
All right. All right. So
Has
I'm
a
going.
really deep bag when it comes to the pass rush. Great
Mhm.
hands. Most polished pass rusher we've seen since like a Chase Young, and that's who I'm rocking with, man.
All right. So I got. Am I going pick number 2?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right. So on the clock, the Houston Texans select Bryce Young, quarterback. Quarterback from Bama, the SEC, the best quarterback in the class potentially, because I know we have an Ohio State fan here. I think that he fits perfectly in that Texans AFC South division, and they have a good defensive minded coach who I think is going to build a defense around them. So I'm going to go with Bryce Young from Bama. All right,
All right. Up next at 3, we
Chris.
got Arizona. And
Ooh.
I got them taking Tyree Wilson.
Okay.
I believe he's the edge rusher from Tennessee, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Good, athletic, comes from that SEC, so he's going to come with crazy athleticism, the ability
Mhm.
to get to the quarterback. I think that the Cardinals they couldn't stop a nosebleed last year,
Right. Right.
and so I got them taking Tyree Wilson.
Okay. Um, number 4, actually on my the one I sent you, I think I had this messed up, but I got the actual right person now on there. I just typed it wrong. But the Indianapolis Colts, the place that Peyton Manning built, needs another quarterback. They've been needing a quarterback since Peyton Manning. Okay, Andrew Luck. I'm sorry, no shade, but we going with C.J. Stroud, man. Ohio State Buckeyes in the house, man. Yo, I don't even know what a Buckeye is at this point, but it just sounds cool. So, so Stroud
For real, for
is
real.
gonna go there with Shane Steichen, man. Shane Steichen gonna get Bryce, now CJ Stroud, excuse me. All right. So quarterback out of Ohio State. All right.
And so next up, I got. There's a part of me that just really doesn't see this like actually
Mm-hmm.
happening, but we'll see what happens when it comes to the draft and trades and all of that. Because
Mm.
Jalen Carter moving sliding all the way to the fifth round is wild to talk about, but Jalen
Mm.
Carter to the Seattle Seahawks is what I
Okay.
got over here.
Okay.
Pretty much when I was doing our draft,
Let's
the
hear
mock
it.
draft, I took picks that you took.
Mm-hmm.
So there might come a possibility
That we had a similar.
that something I say goes against what you said, which
Okay. Oh
might
yeah,
mess
yeah.
you
When we're
up,
doing it.
but we gonna
Yeah.
see.
Okay.
But we gonna
Okay.
see. We got Jalen Carter coming out of Georgia, D tackle going to the Seattle Seahawks. They have an amazing
Mm.
back four, so they need help with that front seven. Giving them a Jalen Carter top three prospect in this draft, someone that solidifies that middle, but can be an Aaron Donald type that can get after the quarterback while also stop the run.
Okay.
So I got Jalen Carter coming out of Georgia, solidifying that D tackle spot.
All right. And that was pick 5.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. With the sixth pick in the 2023 mock draft, the Detroit Lions select Miles Murphy, edge from Clemson, ACC in the house, the place that Dabo Sweeney built. Yeah, so I believe that they're going to have two on the end. We already have Aiden Hutchinson, man. That defense is going to be lit. They got Amon Ra, the receiver with the coldest name of the game, Amon Ra St. Brown, man, on offense. I think they're going to build up that defense, Ralph, and get to the quarterback. So you're going to need to get to Justin Fields in this division, right? So why not get an edge? So I got Miles Murphy going there.
And I think this is where this might mess you up a little bit. I'm not
Okay.
sure, but we'll
Mm.
see. I do not like who they had us
Quarterback.
taking at. I don't want no quarterback. I don't want to reach on no tackle.
Yeah.
I just want to get whatever the best fit or the best fit and the best talent at the spot that we have. So I
Okay.
got the Las Vegas Raiders selecting Devin Witherspoon out of
Ooh.
Illinois. His comp is Asante Samuel, a Patriots product, a
Okay.
consummate pro,
Mm.
and good character kid. I think
Yeah.
he's the best corner in the draft. So I think taking the best corner at a spot that you need, Devin Witherspoon is that pick.
Man, you said that like the number one pick in the draft. The way you broke that down, I was like, all right, I see, man. All right, this is one of my favorite picks, um, in terms of positioning because I think this pick is going to get traded in one of our mock drafts later on. The number 8 pick, the ATL Atlanta. Welcome to Atlanta Falcons. Select edge Luca Van Ness from Iowa. Look, man, the Atlanta Falcons, they cleared up cap space, got rid of Matt Ryan, got rid of Julio Jones. Mario is gone. They're rolling with Desmond Ritter for the moment. We'll see how that plays out. But they badly and desperately need some defensive help. And they need a pass rush, right? I think they have Jarrett there, and they have Terrell at corner. So they need some pass rush, Ralph, out there in the NFC South. So I got them going with Luca Van Ness out of Iowa.
I like that one, man. I like that one. I seen one of his teammates was calling him Hercules, 6'6",
Bro,
275, all muscle. It's like, well, what you really
man.
supposed to do with that? And he's the combine's over this weekend, so his draft stock
Oh,
about to fly through the
yeah,
roof. But
yeah.
to get things going, man, we got Peter Skoronsky.
Okay.
Um,
Number
they
9,
got him
Panthers.
listed as a tackle, but they already
Yeah.
have a good young tackle. You can move. He has versatility where he can go to right tackle, he can go to left guard, right guard, and so I think that
Mm,
pairing him with I think Iwansu, that's there at left tackle, good young left tackle. Pairing them two together, I think Carolina holds off until the second or third round, like they should,
yeah.
because I think that the quarterbacks that you could want at that spot are gonna be there. You can go with a patch quarterback for now. go with a quarterback that's already on your thing because it's going to be, and we talked about this before, the quarterback is going to be quarterback rich in the next draft. So wait, hold off until you get that spot.
All right. I
Take that
like it.
tackle.
At DS, the 10th pick of the mock draft, the Philadelphia Eagles Super Bowl runner-ups that should have won the Super Bowl select Christian Gonzalez, cornerback. Man, they're going to get another cornerback. They're going to get some depth back there. They got Darius Slay. But they're going to be drafting defense, and more defense, continually getting defense, man. Pat Mahomes really did a number on them. I got them going cornerback, opposed to some people out there that I did see, not you, but Bijan Robinson was someone that a lot of people liked him going there. But I like the defense side of the ball, the secondary, Ralph. So I got them
I
getting
think
Christian.
I like him
Yeah,
a
I
lot.
like Bijan as a player.
I like
He
him
was
as a
nice.
player.
Yeah, but a little too
But
rich for
having
me.
Miles Sanders,
Mm-hmm.
because I think that the thing about Bijan is he he's I think that he could be an every down back. He reminds me of like that Bradley Chubb type, not Bradley Chubb,
Yeah.
Nick Chubb. He
Yeah. Nick
reminds me of
Chubb.
Nick Chubb coming out of Georgia. And I was
Underrated.
trying to tell people for the longest Nick Chubb was going to be nice,
Underrated.
and so
Yeah.
I happen to be right on that one. So next
Okay.
up, we got Paris Johnson Jr.
Mm-hmm.
I got him going to Tennessee with the 11th pick, left
Okay.
tackle. I think that this is one of those things where you kind of go fit because you're replacing someone, a Taylor Lewan, who was just cut. You bring in a good young left tackle, but I think he's going to need a lot of work. I watched Ohio State. I seen him get worked out in certain instances. And so, but he did do a pretty good job against that Georgia line.
I like that.
So I got
Okay.
Paris Johnson Jr. at the 11th pick for the
All right.
Titans.
So with the 12th pick, I got the Houston Texans selecting Jordan Addison, wide receiver. This is going to be a good one. USC. Instantly, you can pair and pour in resources, like I always talk about all the time, pouring resources into your rookie quarterback. So I think they can pair it there. I know some people like Jackson Smith Enigma, but like I say, injuries, and you want to get someone who's healthy, and they have a history of getting their number one receiver who could play multiple games. That was DeAndre Hopkins when he was in his prime. He always seemed to be available. So let's go with Jordan Addison out of USC for the Texans.
And I like Jordan Addison because if I'm correct, he was the one that transferred from Pitt
Yep.
to go there. And he was I think he won multiple Blitnikoff Awards, or he at least won one before going there, heading there, played with Caleb in that offense, had that offense rolling. So I think that he did a good job. And I actually really like that pick. Partner him on the other side of Michi.
Yeah.
Of John Mechie or Michi. I think it's John Mechie. Or
Michi.
Mechie the third. Next up, we got the New York Jets. Jets. We got Broderick Jones, left tackle. I think he played at Georgia.
Mm-hmm.
Going to the Jets. I think they still got to figure out what's going on with Aaron Rodgers. I think by the time we do our final mock draft, that situation should be up. We should know exactly what's going to happen with that. But I got the Jets taking Broderick Jones, left tackle.
Okay, I like it. And with the 14th pick of the mock draft, I have the New England Patriots selecting Quentin Johnson, wide receiver out of TCU, the Horned Frogs. Some people believe he's the guy between him, JSN. Just getting a wide receiver there for Mac Jones. And also, once again, we don't know the future of Jacoby Myers, set, I believe, to hit free agency. There's been a couple different teams that have been potential, maybe even the Ravens or whatever. Even though I don't want them in Baltimore, but I think Quentin Johnson. I'm talking about Jacoby Myers. That is, I think Quentin Johnson could also be an option for Mac Jones. So I'm gonna go with a wide receiver here again, Ralph, getting him off the board.
And I think, man, this one's gonna be a little harder for me because I think
Okay.
it's one of those things where I think it's a good fit,
Hmm.
but at the same time, I'm like, it's a tight end. Like I don't. I feel like the Packers need something more than a tight end.
Rogers does like to throw to them tight ends though. Mercedes Lewis, old boy that was there before. They had Jeremy Grant, so I think that's where the tight ends. You know what I'm saying? He's always
Yeah,
threw to the tight ends, and if they have a Jordan Love, you want to have a security blanket. You feel me?
true, true,
That's
true.
just my reasoning, but you know.
Because I think they went heavy on wide receiver, so I think that you already
Mm-hmm.
got Aaron Jones.
Mm-hmm.
Was it AJ Dillon that's still there?
Right.
Then you solidify the offensive line is good. So I think as far as you put pieces around that are gonna make it work, and so at that spot, I got Dalton Kincaid, tight end
Nice.
for the Packers, coming in at 15.
Okay. So at 16, we have the Washington Commanders with the new Eric Bieniemy. But we're not going offense here. We're going defense. Montez Sweat. What's the other dude's name? Chase Young. Now they're going to get Joey Porter Jr., man, out of Penn State. They definitely need to address cornerback and get that secondary uh, beefed up, you know. So I'm gonna go with cornerback here, Ralph, for the sake of time. So I'm going to go Joey Porter Jr.
And then next up, man, for the sake of time, I got Darnell Wright,
Okay.
tackle being drafted by Pitt.
Mm.
It's one of those things where I think you already have pieces. You have the talent, you have the weapons around a Kenny Pickett. It looks like Kenny Pickett is the quarterback of the future for them. So now we're gonna see what they do as far as this pick. But I got them taking Darnell Wright,
Okay.
left tackle for the Steelers.
I like that. And the Steelers always do like to beef up their O line. They have a young quarterback, like you said, Kenny Pickett. So next up, we have the Detroit Lions. Here's the guy that we mentioned earlier in our mock draft. I like Bijan Robinson, Ralph here from Texas. And the reason why I say that is because not because I had DeAndre Swift in fantasy, but we got to look at the injury history. He has a recurring history, multiple seasons of he'll play the first half and now then the second half of the season, the injury bug pops in. So what is going to happen with DeAndre Swift? I think you can immediately, like you said, three down back, put in Bijan Robinson. So I got Detroit Lions actually going running back here.
Man, thank God you picked
Yeah.
because
Uh,
if I had picked before you, I
him.
actually wrote in my so it's not that I have
Yeah.
two separate mock drafts.
Right.
We have
Right. Right.
one mock draft, but I'm letting you pick your picks
Yeah. 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 Okay.
instead of
Cool. I
telling you to
appreciate
pick
it.
what our Juke Boys mock draft is gonna be.
Yeah.
Because if I had picked,
Uh huh.
Detroit was taking Anthony Richardson
Okay.
at quarterback, and B John was gonna go to Tampa Bay.
mm,
But for the
mm.
sake of this, I'm gonna let you have your pick. Detroit's gonna take B
Yeah.
John, and then
Okay.
Tampa Bay is gonna take Anthony Richardson.
I
We
like it.
and it's one of those things where this isn't necessarily how I feel about it.
Mm,
I'm going based off of what I think other teams will go with.
right.
I'm just not sold on Anthony Richardson,
Mm,
not this high.
right.
And we
Right. Right.
keep getting these comps of like, oh, he's this he's Cam Newton and Justin Fields in one,
Yeah.
and I'm just not here. I'm just not. I just don't believe it yet.
That's fair. Okay. So that was pick 19 for you. The Bucks was Anthony Richardson, right?
Correct. Tampa Bay
Okay. Cool.
takes Anthony Richardson.
All right. So we got to fly and soar through the sky and throw it up high. Jackson Smith Enigma. I think that's how you Jigba. I can't pronounce his name.
And
Pronounce the
Jigba,
J silent. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Jackson Smith and Jigba.
And Jigba, cool. JSN, as people call him there. There go JSN. Sounds like Anyway, sounds like some type of community college, but yeah, he's. Hey, they got DK Tyler. let's build that receiver room around either Gino or whatever quarterback they may have, right? So let's go with JSN for the Seattle Seahawks with pick 20. All
And
right.
then next up, man, I got Jalen Hyatt
Nice, nice.
going to the Los Angeles Chargers.
My boy will be happy about
it's
that.
looking like Keenan Allen is gonna get up out of there.
Mm,
Older player, owe him a lot of money. Bring in some young talent. Justin Herbert's young. Mike Williams is still young. Let's
mhm.
bring in Jalen Hyatt, wide receiver, going to the Chargers.
All right. And my team with pick 22, the Baltimore Ravens, will once again throw their hat in the receiver room. Another first round wide receiver pick. They realized last year that Deshaun Jackson they waited too long. They wanted to be in Deshaun Jackson. They didn't do their due diligence. This year, I believe they're going to try to replace Hollywood Brown and get the explosive, dynamic ACC wide receiver out of Boston College and Zay Flowers, 5'10", a buck 72. Steve Smith Sr. likes him. This dude is shifty. They have a new OC in Todd Monken, who's used to getting people out in space. So I think Zay Flowers is cool, and the wide receiver Ravens love those 5'10" wide receivers
Right, right.
with speed. They just love them. So why not get Zay Flowers, a highly coveted receiver? I think Baltimore actually gets him this time. So let's go with Zay Flowers to Baltimore, Ralph.
And then next up, man, we got Minnesota at pick 23 taking Deontay Banks, quarterback.
Ooh, I didn't see that one coming.
And
Okay.
with that defense, man, we just saw them get obliterated
Yeah.
on defense. So they just need all the help that they can get. They're obviously right on offense.
Hmm.
I think later on in the draft, they'll take a wide receiver to replace a Thielen. But I think for now, get you a corner, have him mentored by Patrick Peterson, and move on.
Okay. And then for sake of time, I'll get this one out quick. Pick 24, Jaguars. I'm going Brian Breesy, defensive tackle.
And he's
Okay.
someone that used to be he was a number one high school prospect, even
Mhm.
above CJ Stroud, Bryce Young
Which is crazy.
coming out of high school, which is
Nice.
crazy. So we'll see what happens there. Next up, we got the Giants
Mm.
taking Rashid Rice, wide
Right.
receiver.
All right. I like that. And they need a wide receiver there because they picked up what I call like a waiver wire receiver. So last season,
Right.
so Cowboys have Ketone White, edge at pick 26 out of Georgia Tech. He can play multiple positions on line. A good pairing with Michael Parsons. They have a lot of versatility in that defense. I think they're going to continue to let the defense uh, be their offense, I guess you could say, in the NFC East. So yeah. All right.
And so next up, I got Buffalo shoring
Mhm.
up that offensive line, getting
Okay.
Josh Allen some help protect your asset inside
Yes.
offensive line Osiris Torrance
All right. And then pick
going to
28.
Buffalo. Get ready for that cold, young fella.
Yeah. Pick 28. I thought about the tight end before in this draft, but instead going with Michael Mayer. Um, so for Joe Burrow, so it'll be Joe Uzama and Michael Meyer at the tight end positions. So I'm going there at pick 28 out of Notre Dame, as my dad would call it, Notre Dame. All right.
And then next up, we got New Orleans Saints getting their quarterback of the future,
Mm-hmm.
Max Dugan. I do believe
Okay.
this is one of those things where this is going to change eventually, but for now, Max Dugan going to the New Orleans Saints.
All right, and pick 30, I had initially Bijan Robinson, but he is off the board. I was talking to some Eagles fans. I was like, okay, Bijan there. I know we have Miles Sanders, but you already laid that out. Maybe a Dalvin Cook people were talking about. But I'm going with Edge. Edge. I know Patrick Mahomes carved the defense. Felix Uzama, Kansas State.
And I like next up, for the sake of time, we got to get up out of here, y'all.
Yep.
I wish I had more time, and I really hope this really doesn't happen because I'm a huge fan of Nolan Smith. He missed a lot of this season, but
Mm-hmm.
I got Kansas City with the 31st and last pick of the
Nice.
draft. Edge rusher Nolan Smith going to Kansas City, giving them some help on the other side of Frank Clark, Chris Jones, just a young go getter. But I'm like I said, I am hoping this is wrong. And for the sake of space, we had to go 1 through 18, 18 and 19 through, or 1 through 17, 18 through 31.
Okay.
I believe someone lost a draft pick for tampering or cheating or something along the lines.
Something
There's
like that.
typically
Yeah.
32 teams, but I believe someone lost a draft pick, but I don't remember who it was.
Yeah. Because you're right about that. I just forgot what team it was.
Exactly. But thank you all for watching. Make sure you go on all our socials. Juke Media, Joint Universal Creatives, officially on YouTube. No more the He Say She Say channel. It's still the He Say She Say channel on Facebook. Make sure you follow us. Stay tuned. Another episode coming on Thursday if you missed this one. Peace out. Peace up.